Revolutionary greetings, comrades. We always say that in Zimbabwe, what dominates the political discourse is the political situation in Zimbabwe and South Africa. Zimbabweans follow closely the politics in their own country and that of South Africa. So it is not surprising that in a number of social media platforms, the political discourse these days is about the upcoming conference of the African National Congress. Yesterday, the commission responsible for running elections in the African National Congress released the nominations of comrades in the ANC that will be contesting the top 6 position. But you will know that in terms of the ANC constitution, any person can be nominated from the floor, but they have to reach a certain threshold. But since the unbanning of the ANC, or since 1991, when it held its conference, I do not recall any person who was nominated from the floor and got elected into the top 6. What I've observed since 1991, in the first conference after the unbanning of the liberation movements in Durban, is that anyone nominated from the floor does not get elected into the top 6 of the ANC. But of course, politics being politics, anything is possible. But one would then argue that the top 6 members will emerge from these members that were announced as comrades that their names will appear on the ballot paper from the 16th to the 20th of December 2022, when the African National Congress holds its elective conference. Interestingly, Comrade President Cyril Ramaphosa got the highest nomination for president, scoring about 2,037 votes, while former Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, joining him in the ballot box with 916 votes or so. My thing here is not clear. So it's a 2-horse race for the president of the African National Congress. The members of the ANC will decide on who will be president of the ANC for the next 5 years. Anyone that wins the presidency, as it has become the tradition, if the ANC wins in 2024, is going to be nominated to be the head of state in South Africa. The deputy president position is contested by 3. The Treasurer General, who happens to be the acting Secretary General, and the acting Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Paul Mashatile, is going to be joined by Comrade Ronald Lamola, who is currently the Minister of Justice, and Comrade Oscar Mabuyane, who is the Premier of the Eastern Cape. So they are contesting for the position of Deputy President. This is then the Presidium contestation. Women have fallen out. There's no woman who's going to contest for the position of president. They didn't make the threshold. Umama Dr. Nkosazana Zuma didn't make it. Either was Comrade Lindwe Sisulu didn't make it, either to contest as a president or deputy president. So the Presidium, that is the president and the deputy presidents, will be contested by men. Same thing with this position of Secretary General. Comrade Dumseni Nduli leads the pack with 1,275 votes or so. As I've said, my screen is not very clear. Is joined by Phumula Masaule as also contesting for the Secretary General position. Phumula Masaule is the former Premier of Eastern Cape, former Treasurer General of the South African Communist Party. Comrade Fikile Mbalula joins the two to contest for the position of Secretary General. Comrade Fikile Mbalula is not new in the position of Secretary General. He was Secretary General in the African National Congress Youth League. Then one comrade as well debating was asking to say, why is it that women only contest the position of Deputy Secretary General? Is it reserved for women or is it a coincidence? Well, the comrades in the African National Congress will respond to this question, but Comrade Nomvula Makonyane and Comrade Fi Boshieta, they are nominated for the position of Deputy Secretary General. For the last 5 years or so, they've both been at Luthuli House. Comrade Nomvula, former Premier of Gauteng and also former Cabinet Minister, was then deployed to Luthuli House. Comrade Fi Boshieta, former Secretary General of the ANC Youth League, manager of the ANC, now contesting for the position of Deputy Secretary General. I might say I did work some years back with Comrade Fi Boshieta when she was Secretary General of the ANC Youth League. For the position of chairperson is also interesting. Comrade Stanley Matabata is contesting, joined by the current chairperson, Comrade Gwede Mandashe, and Comrade Dr. David Masondo, joining the two to contest for the position of Deputy National position of chairperson of the African National Congress. Comrade Dr. Masondo was recently elected as the second Deputy General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. Comrade Gwede Mandashe is the former national chair of the South African Communist Party, as well as former Secretary General of the ANC. Then for the position of Treasurer, I'm not familiar with Comrade Benjani Chauke, who was leading the pack for the position of Treasurer General. I only saw his name recently. I was listening to some interview by one political analyst that is a backroom operator. So I'm not familiar with him. But he's joined by Comrade Pule Mabe, who we all know as the national spokesperson of the African National Congress. I think was Treasurer General of the ANC Youth League, if I'm not mistaken. And we know Comrade Mzwandile Masina from Ekhuruleni, the former mayor of Ekhuruleni and former deputy minister. So they'll be completing the contest for top 6 for the position of Treasurer General. When we did a brief analysis on the ZANU PF Congress, we now see the difference between the two former liberation movements, the African National Congress and the ZANU PF. In ZANU PF, the branches, the provinces through the branches of ZANU PF, they will elect in each province members of the Central Committee. So if your province, Matabeleland South, Mashonaland East, and so on, elect you, you are, and you win, Congress simply confirms you as an elected member of the Central Committee. That's it. They don't elect anyone beyond that. They then, of course, elect the first secretary, who is the president of the party. As we saw in the last Congress, it ends there. Then the first secretary of the party appoints everyone. We're told he appoints from the Central Committee, members of the Politburo. He appoints his 2 deputies. He appoints the national chair. He appoints the secretary for administration and other officials. They are not elected. That's the difference. That in ZANU-PF you have the first secretary or the leader of the party with all the power. So you don't have to listen to what the branches of the party are saying. You simply have to jump high when you see the first secretary, because it's the one that can decide to end your political career. When he says jump, you don't ask why. You simply, how far should I jump or how high should I jump? So that's the difference. So the African National Congress, in terms of it practices democratic centralism. Branches do nominate, then delegates appointed or selected or elected to be their representatives at the elective conference, then elect the officials and the members of the NEC, National Executive Committee. It is the branches through their delegates. That is democratic centralism. And once the highest decision-making board of the ANC, the National Conference, elects its leadership, everyone is expected to respect the decision of the highest body, which is the National Conference. That is democratic centralism. We've seen branches nominating, branches having meetings, verification of branches, deliberations at branch level, to an extent that others, of course, could not make the threshold. Like Umama Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Comrade Lindwe Sisulu. But the branches were engaged in this process in preparation for the national conference, which is different from ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF practices a it has a commandist approach. Remember that the outgoing Central Committee of ZANU-PF, just on at Congress, or on the eve of the Congress in October, resolved that Emmerson Mnangagwa was the ZANU-PF candidate for 2023 elections before the Congress could sit. So it's a commandist approach that ZANU-PF practices. It is not democratic centralism. So that's the difference between the African National Congress and the ZANU-PF. The African National Congress is guided by democratic centralism as a key organizational principle in the movement. Whereas the ZANU-PF, it is a commandist approach. This is why we have command agriculture, command Zuko, command what, everything is a commandist approach. Branches do not participate. We have given an example about in 2017, for instance, when in just a week, by the 11th, to be specific, of November 2017, they were all singing the praises of Robert Mugabe. But a week later, they were all singing the praises of Emmerson Mnangagwa. And you ask yourself that in a week, what had changed inside the ZANU-PF for them to move from singing the praises of Mugabe to singing the praises of Emmerson Mnangagwa? It's a commandist approach. Someone issues a command to the structures of ZANU-PF to say, this is what you are going to do. And everyone will have to toe the line. So it's interesting to bring this to the fore, that the African National Congress as a former liberation movement practices democratic centralism as a key principle, while ZANU-PF practices a commandist principle. Please share your views. What do you make of the upcoming ANC conference? How do you compare it to the processes inside the ZANU-PF or any other formal liberation movement? By the way, the African National Congress is the oldest liberation movement in our continent. Please write in the comment section. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please circulate this video. Otherwise, Amandla, comrades.